The Zodiac is a serial killer who operated in Northern California from at least the late 1960s to the early 1970s. His identity is still unknown. 5 known victims were murdered between December 1960 and October 1969. The killer himself claimed to have murdered 37 victims, but this was never confirmed. This case remains open to this day. Now let's dive into the story.
Now one more time.
Hey guys, it's Tasia. Welcome back to my channel, and yes, today I'm going to be talking about the infamous Zodiac Killer. So I've been wanting to talk about the Zodiac Killer for a while, and I keep postponing this video because I've been so busy. So now I've finally had the time to sit down and film this video. So let's get into it, shall we? The first murders attributed to the Zodiac were the shootings of Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday on December 20th of 1968. Shortly after 11 p.m., the couple were shot and killed while sitting in a parked car in a parking lot off of Lake Herman Road. By the time police arrived at the scene, Betty was found dead 30 feet away from the car. Forensic investigators believe that she was shot trying to run away. David, however, was still alive when police came to the scene. Unfortunately, David would die on the way to the hospital. Just before midnight on July 4th, 1969, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park, 4 miles from the previous murder site. A second car drove around twice before parking behind them. The killer shined a flashlight into their eyes before shooting at them. The killer walked away, but upon hearing Michael's moans, returned and shot both of them again before driving off. Both of them were alive when they were found, but only Michael would survive. Michael was able to describe the man who shot him and described him as a young white man, roughly 26 to 30 years old, with light brown curly hair. On July 5th, 1969 at 12:40 p.m., a man phoned the police to claim responsibility for the attack and took credit for the previous murders of Betty and David as well. The call was traced to a phone booth at a gas station, and when police arrived at the scene, the phone was found off the hook at the gas station, but no one was to be found. On August 1st, 1969, 3 different newspapers received identical letters from someone claiming to be the killer. The writer took credit for both shootings. Each letter included a cryptogram, which the killer claimed contained his identity. In the letter, the killer demanded that the letters be printed in the newspaper or he would kill again. The letter was signed with a distinct mark that would eventually be attributed to the killer, which is pictured right here. The police chief requested the writer write another letter with more facts to prove his identity. On August 7th, another letter was received, in it starting off with stating, "This is the Zodiac speaking." The first time the killer referred to himself as the Zodiac, following the police chief's request, describing details about the murders, which were not yet released to the public. Also including a message to the police saying that once they cracked his code, quote, "they will have me." On August 8th, Donald and Beth Hardin cracked the cryptogram. It contained a misspelled message that the killer seemed to reference the Most Dangerous Game. He also stated he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. No name was included in the message, and the killer stated he would not give away his name because it would stop his collection of slaves. On September 27th, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking on a small island at Lake Berryessa. A white man wearing a black executioner-type hood and a cross-circle symbol on his chest approached them. He claimed to be an escaped convict and explained he needed their car and money. He tied the couple up with plastic clothesline before repeatedly stabbing them both. The killer then went to their car and drew a message on it, pictured here. The killer then once again called the police from a payphone to report his latest killing spree. Cecilia was conscious when police arrived and lapsed into a coma during the transport to the hospital, before unfortunately dying 2 days later. Brian would thankfully survive and was able to tell his story to the press. 2 days later, on October 11, 1969, just before 10 p.m. at the intersection of Washington and Cherry Street, a cab driver named Paul Stine was shot in the head by his passenger. A teenage girl and 2 other witnesses heard the gunshot from across the street and got a good look at the man as he wiped down the car and walked away. They called the police and described the man to be a white male between the ages of 25 and 30, reddish-brown hair and glasses. Police would quickly arrive to the scene, but the miscommunication caused the police dispatcher to incorrectly identify the suspect as an African-American male, which would cause major consequences as officers Donald Fouke and Eric Zelms would come across a man walking on the sidewalk with a very similar description as the one described by the teenage girl, but as they were looking for an African-American man, they just left the man alone. In a later letter, the killer would make a comment on this interaction in detail, meaning that the officers could have come in contact with the Zodiac Killer without even knowing it at the time. That means that they could have caught the Zodiac Killer then and there if they were just looking for the right man, which is crazy to me. They could have solved this case, right then. But they let the man go because they were looking for the wrong guy. It blows my mind. Continuing on. Originally, Paul Stine's murder was thought to be a robbery, until another Zodiac letter was received 2 days later, claiming credit for the murder once again, including details that were not yet released to the public, and contained a piece of Paul's blood-stained shirt. The letter also included that the Zodiac's next target were school children. He described that he would wipe out a school bus one morning by shooting out the front tire, picking off the kids one by one as they came off the bus. He also included diagrams of bombs that could be used on school buses, which is terrifying. On the night of March 22nd, 1970, on Highway 132, Kathleen Johns and her baby were tricked into riding in the Zodiac's car. After entering the car, the Zodiac told Johns he was going to kill her and throw her baby out of the car. As the Zodiac was about to make a turn, Johns jumped out of the car and made a run for it into a nearby field with her baby and escaped. Despite some believing that this is an unconfirmed Zodiac encounter, others believe a letter confirms this incident. Quote, "I now have a little list, starting with the woman and her baby, that I gave a rather interesting ride." On April 20th, 1970, a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle included a cipher with the sentence, "My name is blank," which would later be a point of focus in potential suspects. The Zodiac would continue to send letters until 1971, only to send his last letter in 1974, where he claims to have killed 37 people. In 2002, the San Francisco Police Department was able to extract a partial genetic profile from a Zodiac letter from the saliva on the stamp. The profile wasn't enough to conclusively identify anyone, but it was enough to narrow down suspects. Now, with that, let's get into potential suspects. The first suspect is Earl Van Best Jr. He bears an uncanny resemblance to the composite sketch from the Paul Stine killing, which is pictured here once again. His name also matches the number of characters that are needed for the My Name Is cipher. Lastly, a handwriting expert is certain that the handwriting of the Zodiac letters matches the handwriting on Earl Van Best Jr.'s marriage license. As for the reasons he may not be the killer, according to the church the marriage license came from, the handwriting is supposedly matches the Zodiac killer's, matches the handwriting, is not the handwriting of Earl's, it's actually the handwriting of the priest. Also, Earl only matches the description of the killer at the Paul Stine murder scene, not the heavy-set, large-faced description of the previous Zodiac descriptions. Investigators wouldn't test Earl's DNA, however, because there was not enough evidence, even though I don't understand why they wouldn't do that, because there's no harm in testing his DNA anyways. But whatever. The next suspect is Arthur Lee Allen. On the day of the third attack at Lake Berryessa, Arthur told his family he was going scuba diving at Lake Berryessa, and later that night he would come home covered in blood with a bloody knife in his car. 2 years later, in 1971, one of Allen's friends, Don Cheney, said that Arthur told him to call him the Zodiac, before the killer publicly referred to himself as the Zodiac. Don also said that Arthur told him that he planned to call him to hunt people with a gun and a flashlight. The police would interview Allen as a result of this information, where Allen would tell them his favorite book was The Most Dangerous Game, which is a book about a man who hunted humans and is also mentioned by the Zodiac in his letters. Allen also wore a Zodiac brand watch, which also contained the same symbol the killer used, pictured here. The police searched Allen's trailer home, where they found small dissected animals in the freezer, bloody knives, but no direct evidence to the murders. In 1974, Allen was convicted of child molestation, where he spent 3 years in jail. Incidentally, there were no Zodiac letters sent during this time that Allen spent in jail. In 1987, an inmate named Ralph Spinelli tells police that Allen admitted to the murder of Paul Stine. In 1991, Detective George Bauer interviews Michael Mageau, one of the survivors of the Zodiac Killer and the man who saw the Zodiac without his mask on. When shown a lineup of photos, Michael picked out the man who shot him, and that man was Arthur Lee Allen. Once again, police searched Allen's home and found formulas for bombs, constructed bombs, and tapes about the Zodiac Killer. They interview Allen again, and at this point he says he knows nothing. 1 year later, in August 1992, Allen is found at his home dead from a suspected heart attack. Now let's transition into reasons why he may not be the Zodiac Killer. Allen's DNA was compared against the 2000 DNA extracted from the stamped saliva on the Zodiac letter, and it was not a match. Although it was also believed Allen had a habit for letting others lick his stamps instead of him, which would explain why the DNA profile was not a match. Additionally, police took Allen's fingerprints, but the prints did not match the bloody fingerprint left at the Paul Stine crime scene. However, the Zodiac did say he planted that fingerprint in one of his letters. They also had Allen undergo handwriting analysis, but the handwriting did not match the Zodiac either. Allen also does not look like the sketch from the Paul Stine killing in the slightest, but Allen was the prime suspect for the Zodiac for the most involved police departments and is widely believed to be the Zodiac Killer. And the last suspect I'm going over today is Lawrence Kane, K. Kane was involved in a car accident in 1962, which resulted in brain damage, influencing his behavior. Kane can be seen in the My Name Is cipher, and in that cipher there are 3 8s with circles around them. 3 times 8 is 24, and Kane was born in 1924. Darlene Farron's sister said that Kane followed and harassed Darlene in the weeks leading up to her murder. In the 1969 Palestine killing, the man seen by Don Falk was described to be 35 to 45 years old, and Kane was 45 at the time. Officer Falk said in 1987 that of the hundreds of photos that over the past 20 years he had seen, Kane was, quote, the closest of them as he remembered the killer to be. Kane also lived a 6 minutes walk away from the location from where Palestine was thought to have picked up his killer. An expert from the Vallejo PD states, quote, investigations has placed Kane in the locales where several of the Zodiac's victims either lived or were killed. In 1970, Kane moved to South Lake Tahoe, and that year, a possible Zodiac victim, Donna Lass, disappears in South Lake Tahoe. I totally almost said taco. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, it's been a long day. Where was I? Okay. Donna also worked at the same hotel as Kane. But the last evidence is from another Zodiac interaction that I mentioned earlier with Kathleen Johns. Because, unlike most victims, she had extended FaceTime with the Zodiac Killer. When shown a lineup of photographs, Kathleen Johns was able to pick out the man who tried to kill her. It was Lawrence Kane. Now let's look at the evidence that proved he isn't the Zodiac Killer. Kane's handwriting was not a match to the Zodiac's, but he could not be ruled out as well. Kane also matches the description at the Palestine murder scene, but does not match the large, heavy-set description of the Zodiac in the first 3 crime scenes. And recently, there has been a rumor going around that the case has been solved, but the FBI have come out and said that the case is still open and unsolved. Now, that is everything. Now, personally, I believe that it could have been a copycat killer for the Palestine killing. And once again, another copycat killer for the Kathleen Johns incident. And who knows, it could have been a group of people, but I 100% agree that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac Killer for at least the first couple killings. And who knows, maybe he didn't like the idea that people were copying him, so he took credit for the Palestine killing as well. And besides, I don't understand why police didn't arrest him when Michael Mageau pointed him out as the killer. But as of now, the case is still unsolved. Let me know in the comments down below who you think is the Zodiac Killer. If there's a suspect that you think did it that I didn't mention, please feel free to comment it down below in the comment section. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and yeah, that's all for today. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching this video. I love you guys. Bye.